Welcome to CEO Money. I'm Michael Yorba. Thanks for joining me. I've got Don Armstrong. He is Live, Finish Your Race. Don, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here.
I love this book. Let me put this up here. Tell us about yourself, being a cancer survivor, and what brought you to the book, and some of the insights that you've got in your life as we move forward, as you move forward with your life.
All right. I divide my life into pre-cancer and post-cancer now. Pre-cancer, I was in the golf course business. I'm a golf course consultant by education. I went to Virginia Tech to learn how to grow grass. I love to tell people that. I have a degree in agronomy. Started my career right out of school at Colonial Country Club, which for me is like being in the grass-grown world of Disneyland. It was a great opportunity for me. It taught me a lot about not only myself, but it taught me about business. It taught me about managing people. It taught me about working with a big budget. A very interesting environment when you work at a country club because you have so many personalities that you have to deal with, and they're all your boss. So it really taught me a lot about, from that standpoint, business relationships. I had gone through my life considering myself very successful up until 2005, September of 2005, almost 13 years ago in a couple of weeks. I thought I was normal. I thought I was healthy. I was active in the gym. I ran just about every day. I had a couple nurses on a Friday afternoon that took the time to tell me, true story, individually, that I looked horrible. They were in the healthcare industry, and I thought, well, that's very nice of you to tell me that. Being a guy, I wasn't going to go to the doctor. I wasn't even going to think about going to the doctor, but they convinced me that I probably should do that it would probably be worth my while just to go have it checked out. So I went to see my doctor the following Monday, knowing that he would just tell me everything was okay. I remember that conversation with him that lasted a little bit longer than normal. And he had this real concern for me. I could see his concern on his face and the questions he asked me. He followed me from the exam room to the door. I don't know if you have ever had a doctor do that, but he did that so he could tell me he was concerned about me. At that point in my life, I was very type A. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Very type A, and didn't really give it much thought. But the next day, he called me himself, not one of the nurses, and told me that he had done a bunch of testing and he thought that I might have leukemia. And I needed to go see an oncologist, and he had an appointment for me to go. And so I went and saw a guy within an hour. He sent me to a triage area at a local hospital in the emergency room, where I spent 14 hours. They did some additional testing, and the next day I was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. That was a shock, to be diagnosed, to be told you have cancer. I wasn't quite sure what leukemia was. I just knew it was cancer, right? When I was admitted into the hospital the very next day, I couldn't understand why there was so much going on around me, that the activity of nurses and doctors, until one of the nurses reached over and grabbed my hand and said, you understand you have a 25 to 30% chance of surviving.
That's an awakening moment.
That was definitely an awakening moment. That definitely got my attention, no question about it.
Yeah.
You don't know how to react, except that you know that you're in a fight that you've got. You either got to step up and take it on, or you can wither away. And that was my thought process, was not to wither away.
Right.
So, pre-cancer, again, very successful, type A, high-charged environment that I operated in. I did not give much consideration to the relationships around me. In fact, there was a lot of lost relationships that were around me. You go through 8 months of cancer treatment. I had 5 rounds of chemo and eventually a stem cell transplant that saved my life. And my thoughts started to change. My world had been adjusted, not to anything that I had hoped for, but my world had been adjusted. So I started thinking about, what was important to me. Was my business world as important as I thought it was? Was my family the least of my important part of my life? And I had to realize that I had my priorities in the wrong place. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being successful in business, but I think you need to have some people that you can bring along with you, or that you can go along with them. And to me, the relationships are what I'd really had floundered in and had some real struggles with, some real challenges with.
A lot of guys do, some more than others, but I get your point.
Yeah. I kind of looked at the business world being the same way. I think that as an owner of a business, a CEO of a company, I think that you're in a much better position if you can bring your employees along with you. That I think the attitude of just telling all the time and not getting buy-in is not necessarily the best way to be the most successful that you can be. that was one of the big takeaways for me. I realized that the relationships were important to me, that if I did a good job with the relationships, that I could be even more successful. And at the same time, maybe I could have this concept called joy and even fulfillment in my life. What two concepts that had never been in my head at all. So I looked at how does that work? How could that possibly factor into a very aggressive business world? And I thought, there's something to this. There's something about talking to business owners and CEOs about how they can work with their employees, optimize the return on their investment. We're all interested in making more money. It's not about not making less money. It's about making more money. But if you can do it with a happy, content group of people that are with you, God, how much better can that be?
In a group that's passionate about the one goal that you're all trying to strive for.
Absolutely, absolutely. We had talked before about the Tour de France and the fact that the Tour de France is this team of 5 to 6 riders, and each one on the team has a job, and the job is to push one rider to the front. At the end of the day, if they're lucky enough to have the guy that wears the yellow jersey, that yellow jersey is the individual winner, but all those guys, they all are the winners. They're the ones that win. God, that's what a great concept that is in the business world.
Yeah, we should have more of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Can you imagine how much better your life as a company would be, the brand of your company would be? And there's a lot of successful guys that operate that way, but I'm sure that there's others that are very intense about what they do. Again, that's their style, that's great, but I'm thinking that there are opportunities to be even better.
Well, like you said earlier in our conversation, one part of the epiphany was you found out that you just can't do it by yourself. You do have to have a team with you, and in order to be an effective leader, because we're talking about leadership skills here, in order to be able to do that, you've got to be able to rally the troops to move down the road to conquer the hill.
Absolutely.
Am I getting?
You're absolutely right.
And
absolutely.
if you can't do that, then you're really not the right guy for the job.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're in a much better position if you can bring people along. And I did learn that I couldn't do it all by myself. I was one of those guys that thought I didn't need any help from anybody else. I've got this covered. Don't even think about trying to help me because I don't need your help. Now I know that that's not the case. Now I know that you can be a much more effective leader with a lot better outcome if you do have a team that are engaged and understand the end game. When they're happy, when they're working for you, it makes your whole world so much easier to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So, yeah, I think that's certainly something that's important.
Let's talk about some of the other things that you brought up here.
Okay.
The secret to finishing well is a big statement with you. Tell our audience about that secret.
I think the secret is, first of all, you got to have a plan. You got to have a plan, absolutely have to have a plan. And the plan has got the guidelines that pull you along, that make you every day give you direction, give you guidance. So I think that the secret to finishing well is to make sure you have a plan, to be consistent, and to be persistent in your efforts. You know, a lot of times we have so many distractions in the world that it's easy to change our focus and change our direction. If we are consistent with what we do, if we're persistent with what we do, we're going to find the end. It might not always take the same road that we had hoped it would, but we'll get to the end. And it might not be in the timeline that you want, but you will get to the end. And I think we get so distracted sometimes that we get off focus. And the distractions in life probably have been more the ruin for anybody than it is the fact that you don't have the direction that you need.
Good, well said. You also have sudden adversity that you talk about, because we all face it in business and we face it in our lives. It's how you deal with it that really makes a difference between turning it into a learning lesson versus something that may even defeat you. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I could not have said any better than what you just said. I learned early on that adversity affects all of us. And it's not really the adversity, but it's how we react to it that determines who we are, determines the character that we have, it determines the direction that we have, the success that we have. But here's what else it does. When you can overcome the challenges of the adversity in your life and you can make an impact on your life, you're making an impact on everybody around you because they see what you're doing. We're all influencers every single day. And we have an impact on people every single day. We just don't get that warm and fuzzy because someone doesn't come up and give us a high five. But people are in the background going, wow, I can't believe that he made it through that. I can't believe that he conquered that challenge. I think I can do that too. So the overcoming the adversity in our life is something that I think is very, very important. I think you have to realize you're not going to skate through life without some kind of adversity. It could be as simple as your car not starting in the morning, or it could be something as challenging as what I had, a cancer diagnosis. So we have to understand that we're going to have those. It's just a matter of dealing with them in a positive manner, and that's what I chose to do. I chose to look at it in a very positive manner, very positive approach.
Yeah, good. I feel the same way. The importance of community when you when you overcome a tragedy, because everybody has those that come into their lives, like it or not, and we haven't talked about that yet. Let's talk about the community. You talked about everybody on the team winning, but you really do have to have the community effort because sometimes you just run out of gas, and you need a little push from the back.
Absolutely. I can remember that first day that I was in the hospital in 2005. Again, it was a very frantic moment for me. There was so much going on. And then people started coming by to see me. And then the next thing I knew, there were more people coming by to see me, to the point where the nurses finally had to just tell people, look, he can see people from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Don't come after that, because I had constantly people coming around. That community, that support was something that meant the world to me. I don't think we always know how much support we have in life until we go through something where you get the support from people in your world. I had some people that came by every single day to see me, every single day. I was in the hospital 33 days. But that little moment, that little glimpse of them coming and just saying, how are you doing? Hey, I brought you this book. What can I do for you? Is there anything I can do for your family? What else can we do to help you get through this? The community means everything. And that concept of community works not just through a tragic situation or a difficult situation. It's also on your day-to-day life. It's your family, your friends, it's your acquaintances, the people at work, it's the people that surround you, the people that support you, that can help you have, again, that more fulfilled life. I know for me, I didn't work enough on those relationships, on building those relationships. I just assumed that they would be there. Now I make an effort every single day to make sure that those relationships are part of who I am and what I'm doing. I had to get slapped in the head by a disease that could take my life to make that adjustment. But it's something that we can all benefit from and realize, back to that concept again, is we're not alone in this world. We've got people around us. So bring them into your world. Bring them into what you're doing. Bring them into what's important to you. Because if you can do that, I think everybody's life benefits.
I think one of the big takeaways on that is you become more authentic as a person, and that resonates with people.
Right.
Because when you start bumping into people who are actually superficial and there's some agenda, you can feel it. When you adopt this mindset, it seems to me that really resonates, and you'd be actually not only doing something for somebody else, but receiving the support you need to continue on with your path. Am I connecting the dot with you on this?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And it transcends every part of your life. Every part of your life. Family, work, volunteer stuff that you do, all those things. It's so important to have that, as you called it, that authenticity. I think that's something that we lack a lot of today. We have a tendency to kind of keep our cards to ourselves so people don't know what we're thinking. I think everybody in the world has a story. And it's interesting, I don't think we really know the real character of a person until we understand their story. There's a lot of things that we don't know about another person because they haven't wanted to give you that piece of themselves. Because it may be tough, it may be something they don't want to talk about. I think it's important that we all, as best we can, particularly for close friends, understand the other person's story so we can understand what they've had to walk through. That gives us a better understanding of who they are and a better understanding of who we are in that relationship. I think that's something that's incredibly important for all of us. That community, I love the community concept of what you're talking about, because community to me is everything. How terrible would your life be if you just stayed in your in your little space every day without bringing anybody else into it.
I agree, 100%. A second ago, you mentioned community, and you also mentioned volunteer work.
Right.
You do some work for some people. Bring that out.
I do. After I was diagnosed and went through 8 months of treatment and got on the back end of my new normal, so to speak, I realized that I wanted to give back as much as I could, and I didn't really know how to do that. I found this endurance training program called Team in Training that is a part of the Leukemia Lymphoma Society's one of their big campaigns for raising money. Didn't really hear Leukemia Lymphoma Society. I heard Team in Training. I heard running marathons, doing cycling events, and triathlons. So I signed up and did marathon in June of 2007 with Team in Training to raise money to help find a cure for blood cancer. I just completed my 24th Team in Training event.
Congratulations.
Yeah, have raised well over $200,000. It's not, the events have been fun, don't get me wrong, but it's really been about raising money so that people didn't have to go through what I went through. Well, that led me to volunteering for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. So I've been involved in a number of their campaigns, the golf tournament, the Man and Woman of the Year, the Light the Night, and just recently have been honored to be asked to be the chairman of the board. So I spent a lot of time with an organization that was important to my survival.
Are there any events coming up you want to talk about, bring up?
We always have events coming up. We have Light the Night, which is in November and December. October and November. I'm sorry. Fort Worth has a Light the Night event. North Cities has a Light the Night event. Fort Worth has a Light the Night event. You can go to ls.org and find out about the events that are coming now. Find out more about the Leukemia Lymphoma Society and what they're doing. The Leukemia Lymphoma Society, I'm asked all the time, will we find a cure for cancer? The answer is yeah, we will, but it's going to come from the research that the Leukemia Lymphoma Society does. It's much easier to deal in a liquid medium than it is into the solid tumor world. There's a lot more transparency in the results that can transcend over into other cancers. So we could fill up a whole show talking about what the Leukemia Lymphoma Society has done in terms of research. Pretty amazing.
Well, maybe you can come back and talk some more about it.
Be great. I'd love to.
Thanks for being a guest.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. All right, you've been watching CEO Money with Michael Yorba. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.